They say the harder the work, the greater the reward. This is our life's work.
Good morning. It's 9/10 Wednesday, March 9th. This is the TDN Writers Room presented by Keeneland. My name is Joe Bianca. I'm the associate editor of the Thoroughbred Daily News. And New York continues to throw out these temperatures like Powerball numbers. 68 Monday, 31 today, 52 tomorrow. Let's get it.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it, Joe? I'm Bill Finley, a correspondent for the Thoroughbred Daily News. That's all I really have today.
Oh, Bill, yeah, you're saving all your energy and all your good material for the show, obviously. You're a smart man. Jonathan Green, general manager of DJ Stable. And this week, we start the two-year-old sales season, I should say, with OBS opening up with their Under Tax show starting tomorrow. And one of the things I love about, Under Tax shows are you hear these great analysis and explanations. You always focus on horses galloping out, or a horse was under wraps, or a horse bounced off the rail. And my all-time favorite was I was sitting at OBS years ago, and an old-time trainer watched a horse go down the lane and said, "Son, you can't look at the time on that horse." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because the rider was like a dog humping a football."
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. Mark your calendars for the April Horses of Racing Age sale after the races on closing day of the spring meet, which is Friday, April 29th. Entry deadline for print catalogs is April 1st. Approved supplements will be accepted until the sale date. We had a terrific weekend of racing all across the country. We had Aqueduct down in Florida, at Gulfstream in California, Santa Anita. There was a lot of action, including 3-year-old races that were, I think across the board pretty impressive. You had 3 very convincing wins by Morello in the Gotham, Simplification in the Fountain of Youth. Not this time, running 1-2 in the Fountain of Youth, and then of course Forbidden Kingdom in the race at Santa Anita, the San Felipe. Crazy impressive, just blazed out there and was never, ever going to get caught. Really galloped in with ears pricked. We talked to Richard Mandella yesterday about him. Obviously a very exciting horse. But let's hear what stood out to John and Bill the most.
Well, Joe, I thought, just like you said, I thought all 3 of those horses were impressive. But I think if you have to pick the best of the best, to me, it would be Forbidden Kingdom. And I love horses with that kind of running style. I mean, they just run the competition off their feet. They're out there going fast. They open up 5-6 lengths, just dare anybody to catch them. Now, a cheaper or lesser horse, might fold up after that. This is a horse that has that. He can go to another gear. He can keep going. I guess there's some question if he could do that at 1.25 miles, but there was also questions coming into the San Felipe because he had never been more than 7 furlongs. But yeah, I thought he almost took your breath away. And I'm not saying he is as good as Life is Good. I wouldn't go nearly that far, but he reminds me of how he wins races, how he has this just potent weapon and he goes out and use it. Comparisons to a 3-year-old of recent times, kind of like Spendabuck, how he used to go out and win his races. Morello and the Gotham, also very impressive. My one knock on that is that the Gotham has just been the world's worst race so far as something signaling future Derby winners. We have to go back to Secretariat in 1973 since a Gotham winner came in to first place and wins the Kentucky Derby. Even Easy Goer was one of the most recent examples of it when he won the Gotham. Easily won the Wood Memorial, then was second in the Derby. And then Simplification. I mean, he's more blue collar perhaps than some of the other horses we see out there. Part of that is his trainer. Antonio Sano runs a ton of horses, runs a lot of claimers. But what's interesting about him is that they've totally reversed his style. After going to the front on all these races, then he got left in the Holy Bull and ran a good race coming from off the pace. I thought he would go back to the front in the Fountain of Youth. It didn't happen. They've obviously decided they're better off rating him, and it worked out really well. Yeah, I think all 3 horses are legitimate horses that if they stay healthy. Any one of the 3 could be a major factor in the Derby.
The other important things that I took away from this weekend, aside from the impressive victories by all 3 horses that you guys already had mentioned in detail, is can we start talking about American Pharoah as a legitimate stallion now, a legitimate dirt stallion? I mean, I know he's had very good turf horses. We had one in his very first crop, but now he's had, Forbidden Kingdom who is the favorite for the Derby right now, and also had, as time goes by, who won the Beholder Grade 1, the Beholder Mile, also out in California. So now he's got two legitimate, very, very good horses that are running on the dirt, and I think that should be mentioned, because again we've kind of plugged him in a very early way of saying that he was just a turf horse, a turf stallion, but now it looks like he's expanding his resume to the dirt as well. A couple of things I know, because Keeneland is a sponsor, I want to mention that Morello was a Keeneland November weanling, sold for $140,000 as a weanling, then sold as a yearling for $200,000, and then sold as a 2-year-old for $250,000. So everyone who's touched Morello has made money on him, which doesn't happen that often in the industry. So that's an interesting kind of horse. He continues to develop and get better as he's getting older. And with regard to the Fountain of Youth, Simplification was also a $50,000 Keeneland November weanling. But let's talk about two things in that race. Number one is that, Bill, you mentioned exactly what I was going to say about how impressive he has been with a couple different racing styles. And when you have a horse that's versatile, especially in these larger fields, it really gives you a competitive advantage. So that's been really nice to see. But also, let's talk a little bit about Emmanuel, who got in all kinds of trouble, went wide the entire race, and actually ran, according to Gulfstream, ran 230 feet longer, 230 feet further than the winner. That's what it said, 230 feet, because he was 5 wide on both turns, and was wide the whole way. What's that?
That's like 20 lengths. I don't know.
It's exactly right, Joe. It's 29 lengths. 29. Now, is that to say that Emmanuel he lost by 5 lengths? Is it to say he would have won by 18 lengths? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I think that's a horse that, again, you put an asterisk, next to that race when he's going to run the next time out, maybe probably in the Florida Derby, because I think that he just, unfortunately, just was, got the worst of that entire race. Other than the two horses that clipped heels, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later also, about Paco Lopez and how, once again, he's front and center in the middle of an important race with horses going down. But I think that we can take away all the things that you guys said already about these 3 quality winners, and there's some other horses that that ran sneaky good races also in a couple of these races.
I'm looking at the Trackers charts right now, John. It says 38 feet. You ran 38.
I thought it said 230 feet on when I looked at it at Gulfstream as soon as the race was over.
Yeah, I think that was like a misprint, because
it was a misprint. Okay, well let's assume that it was 30. What'd you say? 30 what?
38 feet.
38 feet. Okay, so it's 7 feet is a horse length. So that's roughly 5.5 lengths. So then is it safe to say that he would have hit the wire at the same time as Simplification? I don't know, but he certainly would have been a lot closer for sure.
Yeah, and he ran a good race for a horse who was making his stakes debut. I thought he was a bad bet in that race at 5-2 or 3-1 or whatever he went off at. But obviously he's a nice horse who's still developing. I agree with Bill that Forbidden Kingdom I thought was the most visually impressive horse, because he just took it to him. And, I love seeing rides like that, honestly, where, the jockey he just has so much confidence in his horse. He says, screw it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to wing it. And I'm going to go as fast as I can, as far as I can. And, he's the final 5/16 fraction was pretty slow. But if you watch him visually, the way he came in, just kind of galloping past the wire with ears pricked, I don't know that he couldn't have gone a little bit faster down the stretch in that race if he had needed to. And, it goes to the point that I was making a week or two ago about how many of these preps have been won wire to wire, and just how much speed there appears to be on the Derby trail, which is why, like you guys alluded to, it might behoove a horse like Simplification, who was able to show that other dimension, who was able to lay off the pace and make that one run. I think that could be a big benefit for him as we go a little bit further along down the Derby trail. I thought Morello looked really good too. I thought he won really easy. Classic Empire, another cool Morris stallion, really starting to come on. That race is only a mile. It's never is going to make any sense to me why the Withers is a 1 1/8 and then the Gotham is a mile, and they go back to a 1 1/8 for the Wood Memorial. I feel like those distances should be reversed. A couple other nice performances over the weekend. I thought the star of the weekend, honestly, was Speaker's Corner. In the Gulfstream Mile. I thought he was incredibly impressive. We ran hard every step of the way. He got pushed through like 22-45 fractions and just blew him away in the stretch. Ran off, got a 106 buyer. I'm interested to see if he's able to stretch out, because he wasn't able to do it as a 3-year-old. I think he might be better at 7 furlongs to a mile, but man, did he look good in that race. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. Kathleen O won again, upstart filly. She looked really good for Shug McGahee. He didn't get a huge figure, but I thought ran really well. Express Train, shout out to Express Train for getting the grade 1 win in the Santa Anita handicap. Obviously, the big cap isn't what it used to be. The position on the calendar that it's in between the Dubai World Cup and the Saudi Cup now is just never going to get that, great, real quality grade 1 field that it used to get over the years. But Express Train's a really likable horse, hard knocking, always shows up and gets the grade 1 win in the big cap, 104 Buyer, son of Union Rags. Also, shout out to John and DJ Stables for Coinage winning. Was it the Palm Beach on Saturday, Joe?
It was the Palm Beach. Yeah, thanks, Joe. It was the Palm Beach, and I didn't think we were going to get up there because we got in so much traffic problems. But
he was tossing his head around early in the race, so I thought that was kind of a bad sign, but was able to overcome that.
Yep. No, thank you, and thank you for both of you guys for reaching out to me after the horse won. That was it was exciting. He's going to run in the Transylvania at Keeneland, actually. Nice. Next time out, so that'll be fun to see. And Joe, just to piggyback on what you were saying, I thought Kathleen O was really, really impressive. Not only did she win and come off the pace to win, but you're talking about a 7-horse field in the Devona Dale. I'm talking about 7-horse field, and 5 of the horses were 4-1 or lower. So it was anybody's game. I mean, from the betting standpoint, nobody had an idea of who the favorite should be, and she basically sat off the pace and made a huge run. And I believe that when she sold for $275,000, I believe that was Upstart's most expensive 2-year-old. So obviously she's got the looks on top of the fact that she can run a little bit.
Yep. And she's, again, it's a 3-year-old filly division that's really, I think, kind of crying out for a leader. And I think, Secret Oath is that leader right now, but I don't think it's a huge margin back to the other horses. I mean, Kathleen.
Wouldn't you say Nest also? Wouldn't you say Nest would also be?
Too, yeah. So I think that's kind of the second tier right now behind Secret Oath. But I think there's still also time between now and the Kentucky Oaks to get like that real breakout performer beyond just Secret Oath.
Well, Joe, let me interject one thing here, and I agree with what you said. I love Kathleen O's race, but again, this is a thing we deal with almost every week. But I think the best 3-year-old filly in the country is Adair Manor, but she's trained by Bob Baffert, and we didn't talk about it earlier, but when in earlier shows, but when the Kentucky Oaks nominations came out, no Baffert horses nominated for the Kentucky Oaks. I don't know what to read into that, but again, just like the 3-year-old male division with Messier and a couple others is convoluted because of the Baffert situation. The same with the fillies.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even think of her because of that. But she's obviously a very nice filly too. Just before we wrap up the weekend, I wanted to run down the contest because we had a lot of action in the 3-year-old fantasy derby contest. Bill charging to the front. I mean, so far it's been good for the guy who tells me every year that my stable's going to lose. It's up to a great start. If we can throw it up here. So he's got 100 points. He got 50 from Epicenter winning the Risen Star and 50 for Forbidden Kingdom. Al got 50 from Simplification winning the Fountain of Youth. So Al sits in second at 60 points. I'm third, a little bit of seconditis so far with In Due Time and Smile Happy. And then Sue and John each on the board with 5 points with Pioneer, Medina, and Emmanuel, respectively. I also, just one other thing I wanted to mention. How about Not This Time? Epicenter in the Risen Star, and then 1-2 with Simplification and In Due Time in the Fountain of Youth. He is, Chris McGrath wrote this story a couple of weeks ago about how he looks to be the prevailing heir to Giants Causeway's legend here in America. And hard to disagree with him based on what he's done the first couple of crops.
I remember talking to Duncan Taylor of TaylorMade when they were getting, the horse over, Not This Time over. And he said to me, I said, what do you really think? I mean, Giants Causeway hasn't been a great sires here in the States. And he said, it's all about the filly. It's all about the female female side. And Miss Macy Sue, I saw her win the winning colors on the Tapeta. I saw her break the track record. I saw her win on the dirt. She's that kind of blue hen mare that we haven't seen in a long time. And all she did, oh, by the way, was not only produce not this time, but three other graded stake winners, including Liam's Map, who also is arguably one of the top up and coming stallions, of his crop as well. So kudos to the Taylor brothers and TaylorMade as well for identifying this horse and going against the grain and picking this horse out. It looks like that he's got a promising future.
Yep, got a lot of runners. The TDN Writers Room was brought to you by Keeneland. Last week, Keeneland announced the addition of lifelong horseman and former trainer Buff Bradley. Everybody loves Buff Bradley, added to the Keeneland team. He fills the new position of Associate of Sales Development, where he's going to concentrate on sales of breeding stock and horses of racing age. And it was a big weekend for Keeneland sales graduates, obviously, with over 70 sales grads highlighted in the big stakes races across the country. Several major scores, including Express Train, who I mentioned in the Big Cap, Simplification in the Fountain of Youth, Kathleen O in the Devona Dale, and Temple in the Grade 2 McDermott Stakes. We'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
Keeneland Racecourse is the most beautiful racetrack in America, hands down.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the breeding stock sale. Book one. Good to have you back with us.
Maximum Security proves he's the real deal with a gate-to-wire win in the Florida Derby.
Champion 3-year-old.
Maximum Security has won the TVG.com Haskell Invitational.
11 triple-digit buyers.
Maximum Security, he smoked them in the Cigar Mile.
Grade 1 winning 4-year-old.
Maximum Security takes them all the way in the TDG Pacific Classic.
Secure your mare's future. Maximum Security.
The TDN Writers Room was brought to you by Coolmore. Huge weekend for Coolmore Stallions, as we noted in the first segment on the Derby and Oaks Trail. Morello, from the first crop of Classic Empire, remained undefeated in his third start in the Grade 3 Gotham Stakes. And Forbidden Kingdom by American Pharoah took the Grade 2 San Felipe. Like I said, we talked to Richard Mandella yesterday. We have that interview later on the show. Fourth Grade 1 winner for American Pharoah later on Saturday with As Time Goes By, who won the Beholder Mile. And Ida, a daughter of Munnings, got her fourth straight win in the Grade 2 Santa Isabel Stakes on Sunday. So definitely a lot of American Pharoah horses on those Derby and Oaks trails. Definitely a very exciting sire. And Classic Empire, I wouldn't sleep on him too. I think he's going to have a lot more runners this year beyond just Morello. There'll be a lot of jockey news on this show, both positive and negative. It was a big week for the riders. Paco Lopez is a guy who I think endangers a lot of people. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial there. It's been a complaint about him for a long time in this industry. And, I think it's part of the reason he doesn't have that many friends. It doesn't make that great. He doesn't have those top level connections, and he has to ride at these lower level tracks. Saturday, that was laid bare in the Fountain of Youth Stakes. I'm not sure if we can show the replay, but he was riding In Due Time. He ended up second, and he had tried to get out on the far turn. And it was just one of those things where Paco was playing bumper cars and didn't seem to care who was outside or inside of him. Came out pretty sharply on the far turn. Two horses got clipped and steadied and lost their riders, Galt and High Oak, who was making his 3-year-old debut last year's Saratoga Special winner. Thank God, thankfully, everybody was okay. Both of the horses were okay. Junior Alvarado and Joel Rosario had some minor injuries, but I think they're both going to be okay. It really shows you how honestly how athletic horses are. Obviously I don't like to see horses go down ever, but when they do and they pop back up like that, it's absolutely mind blowing that they're able to do that, because that was a real hold your breath moment in that race, and just thankfully everybody was okay. But yeah, I was shocked that they didn't take the horse down. Honestly, like, what more do you have to do to be placed last by the Gulfstream stewards? It was good for me for the contest that he stayed up, but I think, I think the greater justice would have been served if the horse, if In Two Time had come down. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Joe, that was to me the main takeaway. How do you not disqualify him in there? And, what kind of message does that send if, you can drop two other riders? Not only should have been taken down, he should have been given a lengthy suspension in addition to that. So that to me was the real head scratcher part of all this. There was a definite, not even, any shade of doubt. No black, no gray area here. You got to take the horse down. So I think the Gulfstream stewards really messed up on that. I know John, who just loves Paco Lopez. I'm going to throw it over to him, because I know he's got a lot to say.
No, listen. We've ridden Paco, so it's not a matter of I have a vendetta or an axe to grind with him. I just think he's reckless. I think that he's dangerous out there. And I always, whenever I'm watching one of my races, if Paco's not on our horse, I watch two things: our horse and who Paco's riding, because invariably Paco's going to ride more than one horse in the race. And you say, how can that be physically? Well, because basically he's on his horse and he's jamming other horses, pinning them to the rail. He's, breaking out on top and then slowing the pace down and making horses behind him clip heels. And this isn't the first time in a big race that this has happened. I mean, we talked about the Haskell and at Monmouth Park this summer, and that's their biggest race. That's their premier race of the year. And it was all because of Paco that the horse went down. A horse that he wasn't riding went down. And it's just, it's scary and it's dangerous. And you're talking about very fragile athletes as it is. I'm talking about the horses. And then jockeys on top of that take their lives into their hands every time they get on a horseback. So it's just dangerous and reckless. And I wish that, that Gulfstream, stewards, even if they weren't confident enough to take him down and disqualify him, put him last in that race, they should at least have a film session, or at least give somebody some lip service of saying, like, hey, we're going to sit down with them and talk to them about this, because this has happened way too often. And it would not surprise me if the next time a horse goes down, and the next time there's a pile up in a race, that Paco's involved in it. And if I can see that, and I'm not watching Gulfstream every day, but if I can see it, then what are the people who get paid to watch these races thinking every day? And look, at Monmouth Park, where Paco is king, I understand their, that management there is going to be concerned about reprimanding their top jockey, just like they didn't reprimand the top trainers for years. Okay, that's not their style. But Paco is like the second group of jockeys at Gulfstream. So what would it really affect them to make him have a film study session and talk to him about his, Joe, you nailed it, his bumper car, style of racing out there. It reminds me of Days of Thunder when they say, rubbing is racing. That's kind of the way that he acts. He tries to cut corners, literally on horses. I don't think he tries to clip heels, but he tries to get as close to the horse in front of him or behind him or next to him as he can, and influence their stride while not sacrificing anything on his horse. And it's just dangerous. Somebody's going to get hurt or worse.
Well, I mean, and he's gotten suspended for this kind of stuff before. Like, go back a couple years, April 2019, he got suspended by the Gulfstream stewards for 60 days, quote, based on continuous careless riding after each time he was either called in, reprimanded, or given a suspension. I don't know what the statute of limitations on that kind of stuff is, but if this is another offense on top of those other suspensions, he should get 90 days, 120 days, a full year. Like, it's one of those things where if you don't have the consistent deterrence, he's going to keep doing the same stuff. And at a certain point, like, you got to rule him off the grounds, I think. If this just keeps happening over and over again, and if you do suspend him and it doesn't fix the behavior, I think that he's a danger. He's a danger to people. And it's one of those things that's not, I don't feel like this is really debatable. there's so many things in racing where you go back and forth and you have this opinion and that opinion, and everybody on Twitter is yelling at each other. It seems like everyone's in agreement that Paco Lopez is a dangerous rider and is, just shouldn't be on the racetrack, at least for the next 90 days or whatever. The other jockeys behaving badly story of the week that I wanted to mention is in Sunday's first race at Aqueduct. Not sure if we have the replay, but Jose Lezcano got a little bit of hot water with the racing public. If you watch the race, he's on the outside horse and he's kind of sweeping to the lead, and he keeps looking inside. He keeps looking to his left. It looked like he was concerned about the 3 horse to his inside, who was a little bit boxed in. I think, he's the most charitable reading of it is he wanted to make sure that horse was stuck. But while that was happening, another horse came up on his outside and took the lead. And then he saw that horse and then started riding, and his mount ended up getting beat by like a head on the wire in like a long stretch duel. A lot of people were really outraged about this. I honestly, I don't see it because, I'm a little biased. I like Jose Lezcano a lot. He's one of my favorite riders. But like, if you're saying he was trying to stiff the horse and was trying to throw the race, why did he then ride hard all the way to the wire? Like, this happened in early stretch. It wasn't like it happened, 50 yards before the wire and he got caught and then like belatedly tried to start riding. It happened in early stretch. And then when he saw the horse, he started pumping and driving, and the horse just got beat by a head. And if he was trying not to win the race, he could have gotten DQ'd. He could have said, I'm going to take this horse to a Paco and bump the hell out of the horse outside of me, and then they're going to take me down so I won't win. Like, there were so many other ways, if you're trying to stiff a horse and not win a race, to do it than what Jose Lezcano did, which to me looked like overconfident riding, which you see a lot in New York. But it's open to interpretation. I think it's too many times in these instances, they jump to that conspiratorial line of thinking race fixing is going on. Here's the video to prove it. In this case, I honestly don't see it. But what do you guys think?
Joe, I couldn't agree more. And this is, when Twitter runs amok, 3 or 4 people start writing something, then it's linked to and messaged and all this. Here's what Jose Lezcano was guilty of. Giving a bad ride to the horse. That's it. I mean, to suggest that there was something nefarious going on here is ridiculous. And, I haven't talked to him. I can't read his mind. But I bet he was trying not to pull a Paco, that he was worried about maybe his horse coming over on the horse inside of him or the horse inside of him coming over on him. And he fell asleep. It happens. These guys going to give a bad ride from time to time. If you bet on some horse and Joe Smith, the jockey, steadies 8 times during the race, well, it was a bad ride. Things happen. The Naira stewards are going to meet with him on Friday. I don't see any reason whatsoever other than to say, hey, come on, next time, don't fall asleep out there or realize that horses come up on your outside. But, to suspend him or to suggest that anything, I don't even know, maybe you guys, there's something that people have read about, well, this horse was claimed by Linda Rice and off this other guy, and the other guy just enough already. No, it is, here's what happened. Jose Lezcano messed up, boneheaded ride. He cost the horse the race. It happens. Let's move on.
Yeah, it wasn't great optics. I mean, if Thoroughbred racing was a different sport and, had a centralized voice and transparency and all the things that we've been harping on for years and years, then you wouldn't necessarily even have this kind of a conspiracy theory. But because, there's this immediate assumption that there's, something wrong going on, that people are trying to screw the general public or the bettors or that there's, inside racing going. I mean, there's all kinds of conspiracy theories. If we had a centralized voice that would come out and say, we spoke, we're going to speak to the rider on Friday, and after the discussion, we're going to have a press conference or we're going to have a release that says, here's what was going through his head. We've, reviewed it. We're fine with the explanation. And, and we did this because it's for the best, integrity of the sport and also for the safety of our horses and our riders, which is ironically what we were calling for that happened with Paco. But be that as it may, at least New York is going through the process of having him sit down, watch the video and explain what's going on. I don't think he was race fixing, but it's not a good optic. It's not a good look. And I will say this, if I had watched that same scenario unfold at a secondary racetrack, I would have a question about it, about whether or not it was really his safety or whether or not he was saying to the guy, hey, this is where you're supposed to pass me. This is what, get past me. I'm giving you, it's just because maybe I'm under the false illusion that New York is above board and that, the riders are all doing the right thing. So much so that like 2 California riders are coming to New York because it is such a great place to race. If it was a different racetrack, I would definitely be questioning you guys and saying, I'm not so sure that I'm as confident as you are that this wasn't anything other than just, kind of a bad ride by a good rider.
And, I honestly, even though I think we're kind of in agreement here that it was just a bad ride and it wasn't anything nefarious and that the Twitter outrage gets a little, out of hand sometimes, I think it does serve a purpose in that I don't necessarily know that they would have brought him in for a sit down if there wasn't such outrage about it on social media. So that's where it does serve a purpose. Even if I disagree that in this case there was anything nefarious going on, there's at least some accountability based on people posting this video and getting mad about it and debating it on Twitter. So, in that way, at least that's kind of the ombudsman. We're the public ombudsman for racing, where, we just get on Twitter and yell enough, we'll get some accountability.
Patty, can we put that vocabulary word and a definition up, because I didn't know what it meant, and I'm sure that 98% of our listeners
people are smart
know what ombudsman means. Look at Joe Bianca pulling. Was that like in your calendar, like your vocab day calendar or your vocab day toilet paper? Well, where'd you get that one from? That was a very impressive word, Mr. Bianca.
Hey, I was a journalism major, John. I had to learn some words along the way somewhere by accident.
Ombudsman.
OMBUDSMAN.
Wow, that is. I am impressive.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. This month, the PHBA announced a $150,000 donation will be made to the Equine Pharmacology Laboratory at the University of Pennsylvania's School of Veterinary Medicine. It's obviously the gold standard in vet schools in this country. This funding will go towards research to produce a test unit that will allow a horse to be tested prior to the race to determine if the horse could be in danger of injury or had been doped, allowing time to scratch any horse in question before a race. That's definitely a revolutionary idea in this business, and the PHBA is looking forward to what this research could mean for the future of the industry. Fully, wholeheartedly support that. Any kind of pre-race examination that can stop any of the problems that we rail about on this show, I think is great progress. And also, we talked to Brian Sanfratello a few weeks ago about their new PA-sired, PA-bred 2-year-old series with $600,000 in stakes purses to be offered in 2022. The first race in the series will be run on Pennsylvania Day at the races on August 22nd. You can learn more at pabred.com. And I know John has a little bit of news about a new PA stallion coming.
Yeah, I just saw a press release. I'm very excited for Capo Kane, who's the only son of Street Sense to be standing on the East Coast. And I'm sure you guys remember his impressive win, main special weight win in New York, but also won the Jerome by over 6 lengths and then placed in the Withers. So he was on the Derby campaign for his crop early on. And Street Sense out of a hard spun mare. So just, really well bred, and I think is a bargain at $2,500 at Pennsylvania.
For sure. Getting into a good family there. We'll be right back after this message from the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association.
Here in Pennsylvania, we're proud of our breeding program, the best in North America. But we're also proud to be leaders in this industry. The PA Horse Breeders Association is funding cutting-edge research at Penn Vet into equine health and safety. And we endorse the SAFE Act to help protect the most vulnerable horses. Plus, we're pleased to support the aftercare programs set up by our horsemen's groups. Just a few of the reasons why you should join us in Pennsylvania, the premier place to breed and race.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Canterbury Park. Shout out to Canterbury Park for coming along the ride on the TDN Writers Room and being our latest sponsor. We love Minnesota racing. We've done stuff with the Minnesota Thoroughbred Association in the past. We love Canterbury Park. Very horseplayer friendly product, as Bill will tell you in a second. Canterbury Park wants everybody to know that owners sending their horses to Canterbury when their meet begins on May 18th will be rewarded. A $1,000 bonus will be paid to the owner of any horse that races during the month of May, in addition to a travel loan program offered to assist with the upfront expenses of shipping a stable to Canterbury. Very nice initiative to get people on the grounds, to get people stabled there, the forgivable loans, the grants. And we talked to Andrew Offerman of Canterbury in the past about that program, and it's definitely a good job by them to get new owners and trainers over there. All information, full conditions, and loan applications specific to these programs can be found at canterburypark.com/horsemen. And we're looking forward to Canterbury's race meet, which runs May 18th through September 17th with a Wednesday through Sunday schedule. And like I said, definitely very horse player friendly. I know Bill knows about that.
Yeah, Joe, you mentioned why Canterbury is a good deal for owners and trainers and horsemen. It's a great deal for the bettors, and we all yell all the time about how high the takeouts are. And so if you feel that way, and everybody does, support the tracks with good takeout structures. Canterbury on their pick 5s and pick 6, the takeout is only 10%. That's the lowest takeout in the industry. Give your attention to Canterbury, particularly for the pick 5s and pick 6, and support the tracks that are trying to do right by the horse player.
And Joe, I can tell you, we actually just ran against a Minnesota bred in one of the funniest names I can remember in recent history. They named the horse Harmon Killer Brew after the famous home run hitter, Minnesota Twins slugger. And he was a Minnesota bred. So that definitely caught my eye. And I'm sure we'll be seeing him run in Minnesota this summer.
For sure. Remember that meet opens May 18th. Looking forward to it. We've been running these cartoons in the TDN recently from Remy Balak, who's a very talented, very funny horse racing cartoonist. We've been running one every week in the TDN. We're popping them up here on the Writers Room, too. Here's this week's cartoon. And, there's a lot of people complaining about supply chain issues these days, but what if the solution was just under our noses this whole time in the horse business? And so yesterday we talked to Richard Mandella, who's the trainer of Forbidden Kingdom. Katie Petruniak, our associate producer, jumped on with us to replace Bill and John, and appreciate Katie for coming on, and appreciate the time from Richard Mandella. Again, Forbidden Kingdom, very exciting, but he also was the trainer of Beholder, was recently nominated for the Hall of Fame. So we talked to him about her. We talked to him about Flavien Prat, lots of stuff with Richard Mandella. Let's check out our interview. The Green Group Guest of the Week is sponsored by The Green Group, an accounting, tax, consulting, and advisory firm specializing in the thoroughbred industry. With over 500 clients in the horse business, they have proven strategies to save you taxes. Learn more about how they can help you at www.greenco.com. So we are thrilled this week to be joined by Hall of Fame trainer Richard Mandella. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Nice to be here.
Yeah, glad to get you in. So obviously the big horses, Forbidden Kingdom, was terrific in the San Felipe, really ran them off their feet, went really, really fast early, and seemed to be just galloping in with ears pricked. What was your reaction to that race, and how did he come out of it?
Truly excited. I was a little concerned when he opened up so fast early, but he's just gifted with such natural speed. He enjoys using it.
Yeah, and so how did he come back? Because it seemed like he was coming in real easy. How did he come out of the race?
Came back great. Yeah, doing very well.
Yeah, so you full speed ahead to the Santa Anita Derby. Is that the plan?
That's the plan.
All right.
Richard, thank you so much for joining us. And I wanted to ask you, when you first got him in your barn, when did you start thinking that he could be something special?
We got him in. He was just galloping, but the first sight of him is just a gorgeous horse, beautiful horse, a lot of class about him. His looks are classy. It was, we had big expectations, and he's never let us down.
He's obviously got a ton of speed. Something I noticed about the Derby trail prep so far is a lot of wire-to-wire winners. Is that something that concerns you at all, or has he been able to rate? Like, how does he train? Can you think he can rate off horses?
He is a very smart horse, but he likes to run and show his speed. I can only train my horse and worry about him. So the others just have to do their thing, and I'll just keep working at him. And
So there's no plan
see if we can get him in the right place.
Right. So there's no specific plan to try to rate him. Just gonna let him do his thing.
It's a work in progress.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you've had so many superstar racehorses over the years, but 6 horses in the Derby. And obviously you're known for being such an incredibly patient trainer with your horses. So what do you need to see from a horse to put him on the Derby trail and point towards the Kentucky Derby?
In all these years, I never figured it out. So I don't know the answer, but Forbidden Kingdom seems to be taking me. So I'll just let him do it.
Gotcha. Well, I wanted to ask about Beholder too. Obviously, a very, very special horse. She was named as a Hall of Fame finalist recently. We assume that she's going to go in there with flying colors. Her great thing to me was longevity, winning grade 1s from 3 to 6. Why do you think that her longevity was so strong? Like, was it something that she did in her training regimen? Was it she was easy on herself? Why was she able to stay good for so long?
Well, I'd like to say it was my training, but I think she was just a superior individual.
Yeah. What separates her from other horses, do you think? Like, what specifically?
Well, mentally, she enjoyed her job. Physically, she took the pressure. Soundness wise, she stayed sound, and she had the ability, the very first thing you have to have. So she had all the ingredients it takes to be a great racehorse.
Gotcha.
And another question kind of about your training technique. So can you think of a horse, and maybe not necessarily like the most accomplished or the most talented, but just one where you feel like your training techniques in particular really helped that horse excel?
I don't remember any of that, but I remember a lot of complaints.
Complaints about what?
My training.
Well,
no.
Too long of a list.
All right. I want to ask him also about Flavien, because he's leaving to go to New York. That news broke over the weekend. You guys have obviously had a great relationship from the jump. What are your thoughts on that and him leaving California?
Well, selfishly, I just hate to see him go. He's a person I've always, he came to me at 18 years old from France, and immediately I just saw a star. There was no secret. Anybody that would have looked at him close enough would have seen it. But just the person he is, the rider he is, it'll be a big loss when he leaves. But on a larger scale, California is going to be hurt by it. I think Flavien's attracted a lot of players and fans that watch him purely because of himself. And I hope that doesn't take too much away from California.
What is it about his ability as a rider that makes him so special?
Well, he's kind of like I said about Beholder. He's got all the ingredients it takes to be a great rider. First, the horsemanship, the athleticism, the mind thing, intelligence, and then the class to go with it. He just has everything.
Right. I wanted to ask also about, you're a California guy through and through. California was in a very precarious spot a couple of years ago in Santa Anita with all the breakdowns. I think they've done a great job in terms of improving the safety of the training and the racetrack. How would you compare the health of the California racing industry now compared to a couple of years ago?
I think California has not gotten enough credit for the improvements we've made. If you check the injury numbers and rates, it's dramatic what we've done. People work with horses since anybody can remember. And this is one of the last real things of people working and playing and being part of life with horses. And it should be admired, not hurt. There's always a few bad apples. You root those out.
Just a follow-up on the California thing. What things do you think California has done well to bring those injuries and those breakdown numbers down?
I think a combination of many things, and it's very time consuming. It's expensive to have the help do it, the check and recheck, vet checks. They've also, I think, improved the maintenance on the racetrack. Racetrack probably wouldn't want to hear that, but that's probably part of the game. I just think it's just a correction of a lot of things that we've all stood up and realized we need to be more careful.
And I wanted to go back to Forbidden Kingdom for one more question. I guess it's a two-part question, but can you talk about your relationship with MyRacehorse and Spendthrift? It seems like you guys have been really successful so far. And then with that, if there are any future stars in your barn that maybe you could tell us about that haven't started yet.
Great relationships. Wayne Hughes and Spendthrift and I started out with a bang. We had action this day when the Breeders' Cup, maybe the first year I trained for him, and continued success after that. And then MyRacehorse asked me to join the program, and I was a little hesitant. And Mr. Hughes explained to me, Richard, you might have 3,000 people own these parts of these horses, and then add up all of their friends, and you're creating real fans. And that made it worthwhile. And that's exactly what happens. And the management of MyRacehorse is as good as it can be.
Is it tough at all to manage a horse that's owned by so many different people, or is it just the same? They have the principals that you talk to. Is it difficult at all?
That's pretty scary when you get them beat.
All right, Richard, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate the patience and getting you into the room, and we appreciate the talk. It's good to talk to you.
Okay, thank you. All
right. Thanks, Richard.
Bye.
The Green Group Guest of the Week is sponsored by the Green Group, an accounting, tax, consulting, and advisory firm specializing in the thoroughbred industry. As this week's Green Group Guest of the Week, Richard Mandella will receive a free 1-hour tax consultation. Learn more at greenco.com. We'll be right back after this message from the Green Group.
Why do the most successful owners, breeders, and horsemen select the Green Group as their tax advisor? We simply save them money and know how to make them more successful. Over the past 40 years, founder Leonard Green has owned and bred some of the best racehorses in the history of the sport. His in-depth, hands-on industry knowledge, combined with cutting-edge tax-saving strategies, has produced positive results for his clientele and has made the Green Group the top-rated accounting and tax firm in the business. For a confidential and complimentary consultation, contact us at 732-634-5100 or visit our website at www.greenco.com. The Green Group, proven strategies to save you taxes.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by XBTV, an extensive repository of workouts, handicapping videos, basically everything you need to bet the races. The XBTV workout of the week this week is Classic Causeway. Brian Lynch, trainee, who worked in company with Cool Quest on Saturday at Palm Meadows. You can see right now going 5 furlongs in 59.95. The Son of Giants Causeway ranked number 1 on TD Thornton's most recent Derby Top 12 list from this week. We'll see him this weekend in the Tampa Bay Derby. Obviously a very exciting top-class 3-year-old as the Derby Trail really starts to heat up. And if you want to see any of those top 3-year-olds working out for their next start, go to xbtv.com. Some more jockey news. This is, I think, more on the positive side, at least for me, because I'm going to take credit for this. We had Flavien Prat on a month or so ago. I was nudging him. I was pushing him. I was, come to New York. We really want to see you here. And lo and behold, Flavien Prat and Umberto Rispoli over the weekend announced that they're going to be moving their tack to New York this spring. Flavien's going to go to Keeneland first for the spring meet, and then is going to move along to Belmont. Flavien Prat's stated reason for it was to try to win an Eclipse Award. He basically was saying, I can dominate all I want in California, but, you really have to be in New York and be winning these big races consistently on the East Coast to win an Eclipse Award. I don't necessarily know that that's true, but I think that he's right that there's going to be more opportunity on the big stage for him over there. He's obviously a terrific rider, pound for pound, one of the best in the business, and I'm glad to see it. But the question is, how well are they going to be able to realistically do in a jockey colony that has the Ortiz brothers and Johnny Velasquez and Javier Castellano and just tons of top class riders. It's the hardest place in the world to break into, as far as I'm concerned, as a jockey. But if anybody can do it, it's Flavien. We'll see about Umberto Rispoli. He doesn't have quite the cachet that Flavien does, but is also a very good rider. Any reactions from you guys on this move?
Yeah, Joe, normally I agree with you. This one, I don't agree whatsoever. He is so dominant. I mean, it's California may not have the opportunities New York has. There's fewer racing days. Maybe, there's maybe fewer big races, but he is so dominant there that it's a one-man show. And, he's riding for Baffert. He's riding for all the big stables. He rides Flightline for John Sadler. Every time a stakes race comes up there, he's either on the favorite or the second choice. Now, why abandon that to go to New York where he's going to be at least fourth leading rider? There's no way he's going to be ahead of the two Ortiz brothers and Luis Saez. No way. And maybe in time he will, but at least at the start. And that doesn't even begin to talk about Rosario, John Velasquez, some other riders in there. To me, and obviously he disagrees, but to be the dominant rider in California versus the fourth or fifth best top rider in the standings in New York, I don't get it. I don't get it at all, why he would want to do that. And I applaud for a guy for, wanting to reach out and to, do even better in his career. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, I think on his part, it's not a good move. Matter of fact, when we were starting the show, we just got the email, the Jockey of the Week was Flavien Prat because he won 3 stakes races at Santa Anita on the Saturday card. He's got 60 wins there, 25 more than anybody else in the standings. Okay, so that's that. But a couple other ancillary topics for this. This doesn't speak well of California that a guy like this wants to leave. That I guess, the short fields, the lack of a lot of racing dates, that he wants to go what he considers greener pastures. And then one last point on this, Rispoli's nuts because he's going to come in here. He's going to be the 11th leading rider and somebody's going to have to pick up all these Prat wins in California. And he very well could take advantage of this huge void. I mean, you have Juan Hernandez, Abel Cedillo, Victor Espinosa hardly ever rides, Mike Smith hardly ever rides. There is the California riding colony once Prat is going is just begging for someone to come in and pick up all those wins. And I think Rispoli would have as good a chance as anybody. So I totally don't get what he's doing.
I love when Bill comes in and is wishy-washy on the topic. He's nuts. He's freaking crazy. Why would he ever do that? And you know what, Bill, I can't disagree with you as much as I want to, as much as I really want to sink my teeth into that argument. You're absolutely right. I think that both these guys probably were, talking independently of each other and probably didn't know what the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing, and that's why they're both coming in. But I actually applaud Flavien Prat for wanting to broaden his horizons. And we talk a lot about when horses are beating up on certain, groups, whether it's because they're staying in their geographic area or they're only running against fillies or they're only running, sprinting and they should try to run longer. We're always yearning for another challenge. And I think that's what Prat is doing right now. He's looking at his own resume and he's saying, I've done everything I can out here in California, number one. Number two, Bill, to your point, California racing is not what it was. It's not what it used to be, as far as cachet and publicity. And he wants to see how he measures up against these other top riders. And the best way to do it is to go head to head. And yeah, he's going to be 4th, 5th, 6th, pick in a lot of these races. But I know when we look at the Saratoga charts, and Joe, you're a handicapper, so you can probably back me up on this. But, most of the races, not the claiming races, but most of the solid races, allowance races, stake races, they're 4, 5, 6 deep. Where you can make a case for that many horses. So to be the 4th or 5th or 6th best rider in New York, maybe isn't the worst thing in the world because you're still going to have a puncher's chance in a lot of these races. Is he going to be even money favorite on a lot of the top races? No, that's the Ortiz brothers and Saez and a couple of the guys that we mentioned. But if he wants to add to his resume and he wants to get that elusive, Eclipse Award that, the three of us have earned, then that's what he has to do. He's got to come to New York and he's got to ride those kind of horses and then hopefully continue to carry and ride those horses into the Breeders' Cup races, which are on the East Coast this year, in Kentucky to be exact. So I actually applaud him for taking that shot. And Bill, I agree with you also. I think Rispoli should stay home and just totally inherit the crown of being the best rider in California.
Yeah, no, and like you said, who knows how much they communicated, when they made these decisions. Maybe Umberto Rispoli will think better, because I think he is a really good rider too. And it's just like John says, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond, or do you want to be a medium-sized fish in a big pond? And I respect that. I think he's saying to himself, like John says, I've done all there is to do here in California. It's time for me to challenge myself at the top level possible. And that's New York. And that's, especially as we get into the spring and Saratoga. No, he's not going to dominate the way he did it in California, but he's still going to make plenty of money. But more importantly, he's going to be on the radar of every single top trainer almost. 75, 80% of the top trainers are going to be in New York for the summer at least. And you want to be that first call for those guys. He's already written a decent amount of races for Chad Brown. He's won grade ones for Chad Brown. But elsewhere in New York, he doesn't, as far as I know, he doesn't have a ton of connections yet. And he's betting on himself. He's betting on his talent, which we all know is through the roof. And he's taking a shot. And there's nothing to say that if he goes and, it doesn't work out the way he planned, he could easily go back to California and still win 100,000 races. Like, it's not as if this has to be a permanent move or it's a, career altering decision. I think he's betting on himself and taking a shot. And I, as someone who pushed him to do it on the show, I have to support it. I can't go back now and be like, you idiot, why are you going to New York? You should just stay in California. I wanted to see him try. I wanted to see him challenge himself at that top level, and he's going to do it. So I appreciate that, Flavien Pryde. And it's always exciting to get some new blood in the New York jockey colony too. As great as those guys are, like Saez and the Ortiz brothers, get a little sick of seeing the same riders every day, as a handicapper. So I think that this is going to be a good move for Flavien, good move for the fans, good move for the handicappers. And then, we'll see where it goes from there.
But, Flavien, now he has the full faith and first call of the Joe Bianca Racing Stable. So, so there's that.
As soon as we get a horse, we got our jockey lined up. We just got to get a horse.
So that means I got to put him on Writers Room? Is that what you're saying?
True that, yep. If she ever runs,
he's got to ride Writers Room. All right.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. Joining a West Point Thoroughbreds partnership can vault you into the world of instant camaraderie among people surrounding high-class horses and stakes action for a fraction of the cost of trying to do it on your own. You can learn more at westpointtb.com. And we got a Flightline update over the past week. Flightline returned to the track at Santa Anita on Saturday. John Sadler kept his word that he's going to be back in training soon, and maybe the Churchill Downs Stakes in a couple of months. So after straining his hock, kept him on the sidelines. He's back on the track at Santa Anita. We're excited to see where he ends up next. Definitely want to see him a bunch of times the rest of this year if we can. And over the next week, West Point will have several runners at Aqueduct, Fairgrounds, and Laurel. They have Jackson Traveler, Maryland-bred champion 3-year-old last year, 3-year-old male, running in the Not for Love Stakes at Laurel. And then it looks like they'll have some graded stakes action coming up in the next 2 weeks. So we look forward to that as well. We'll be right back after this message from West Point Thoroughbreds.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
Being a small family business, I guess we're part of a dying breed. We're really grateful for the people that entrust us. We know it's a huge responsibility.
We're always with your horse every step of the way. When it comes to being at the sales ground, showing your horses, we are with your horse.
Just driving up and down the road every day, there's not a time that I don't look out and feel a responsibility to the sport, the animal, the people that come to invest in the game. I want to see as many people enjoy this sport as they possibly can, because we do have the most beautiful sport in the world.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Legacy Bloodstock. If you think that 50 years combined experience in the horse business could benefit your program, give Tommy or Wendy a call. They personally advise on each horse as if they were their own. Big weekend of racing for Legacy Bloodstock with 5 winners just over the weekend, including 3 black type horses. Congratulations to Tommy and Wendy and all the legacy grads. One of those winners was Temple, who I mentioned earlier, won the Grade 2 Mech Darmida going along on the turf. Legacy bloodstock sales grads have now earned over $137 million. Great work from a small outfit who does a great job every single sale. And congratulations to the connections of everybody from the legacy grads, as well as the legacy bloodstock and Tommy and Wendy themselves. Just wanted to mention this before we head out of here. It might be the latest in the show that we ever gave a Bob Baffert legal update, so just going to keep pushing it further and further down in the show. Bob Baffert's attorney last week tried to get the KHRC to stay his suspension one more time. Now, before, it was the executive director, Mark Guilfoyle, who denied the stay of Baffert's suspension. This time it went to the entire board at the KHRC, and they voted 10-0 to deny the stay. So now Baffert's only recourse is to go to the administrative law judge. That judge is going to hear that case and is not going to be able to rule until March 21st. So the earliest that Baffert's 90-day suspension can start is March 21st. We'll see if he gets that stay from the judge. But just once again, I just want to read a Clark Brewster quote that a 90-day suspension would be a virtual death blow to Bob Baffert's business, forcing the dispersal of his barn in a, quote, disruptive and irreparably damaging way. I mentioned it last week that this is just plain nonsense. Bob Baffert's going to be just fine even if he had to serve 90 days. Even if he had to serve 9 months, he would be fine. He'd pick up right where he left off. But now it's officially out of the KHRC's hands and is going to go to the administrative law judge. Just any notes from you guys?
Just a little bit, Joe. This in and of itself was not a big deal. This was always going to happen. The Kentucky Racing Commission board was not going to overrule the executive director. So this is not going to be settled until it gets into, not even the administrative law judge, until it gets into the court system. And then it's going to be in the court system. There's going to be a verdict, and there's probably going to be an appeal. So, like everything else with him, nothing's going to happen anytime soon. So, I'm sure they would have loved to have gotten a different decision out of the Kentucky Racing Commission. That was never going to happen, and now see in court.
Just one more thing I wanted to mention about that is, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, made this renewed pledge for transparency recently, and then in this decision, they all went inside of a back room and told nothing to the public as they were deliberating, came back out and just did like a roll call vote read with no discussion whatsoever. They did have the council. They did have the KHRC council, who I thought made some good arguments. But just in general, I'd like to see some of these deliberations happen out in public. And I don't know whether they're bound by regulation or whatever that they can't do that. But I just think in general in the future, for these regulatory meetings, just more transparency, less behind closed doors. Like, let's have a discussion about these things. Let's hear both sides. Let's debate and discuss. Just a small thing that I hope we see more of in the future. Okay, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the TDN Writers Room presented by Keeneland. Remember that the Keeneland Horses of Racing Age sale is Friday, April 29th, which is also the last day of the Keeneland Spring Meet, which opens April 8th. We're looking forward to all that. I want to thank Bill Finley, John Green, our Green Group guest of the week, Richard Mandella, our producer, Patty Wolf, our associate producer and interviewer this week, Katie Petruniak, and our editors, Anthony LaRocca, Aaliyah LaRocca, and Nathan Wilkinson. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.